Today on Italian Australians in Griffith, there is a very special guest, Roland Bannister, author of Music and Love, Music and Lives of Italian Australians in Griffith, New South Wales. Dr. Roland Bannister began his working life as a carpenter and then studied at the Newcastle Conservatorium of Music and Newcastle Teachers College to become a music teacher and trombonist. He taught at Glennies High School, then Surbiton Boys High in London, and then for 33 years he worked as a music academic at Charles Sturt University's Wagga Wagga campus. In recent decades, he has pursued projects in ethnomusicology, the study of people and their music. And Roland and his wife Marion now live in Roland's hometown, Newcastle, in New South Wales, Australia. Roland, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Julia. I look forward to talking with you.
So I was given your book, Music and Love, that I have it here with me, while I was in Griffith. And as I started reading it, I couldn't stop. I found it very captivating and beautifully written because Italian migration history is merged with personal stories and voices of the people you have interviewed for the book. Personally, I think you've done an incredibly valuable research, and your book should be read by anyone who is interested in Italian migrations, as I believe many personal stories, their deep connection with music, and the role of music is shaping identities and getting communities together, and is shared by many Italian migrant communities all over the world, so not just in Australia.
Yes.
So my first question for you is, when and why have you decided to write Music and Love, so this book about music and lives of Italian Australians in Griffith?
Well, of course, that's a very good question, and the answer is rather long, but I'll tell you as briefly as I can. Back in the late 90s, I was approaching the end of my working life as a music academic at Charles Sturt University. And I knew I was going to have big opportunities because there'd be more time. I also was very happy that I'd done recently a research project that I enjoyed doing a lot. I researched the lives of young musicians who work in the Australian Army. What's it like to be a musician in the Army?
Wow.
Well, that was for me a major project, and I loved the idea of going into the Army as a visitor and seeing a world that I had little idea about, and meeting people who shared my interest in music, but in a very different context than I'd been used to. So I was very excited by that, and I wanted to do another project. Now, apart from music, my other loves are country towns and people of other cultures. And I had studied seriously at uni Italian back in the 70s. I must say I did not excel in Italian language, but I did enjoy learning about the Italians. I majored in Italian. And I had visited Griffith, and I think it's a beautiful town. And I knew that there are a lot of Italians there. So I put it all together and thought, there must be some interesting stories in Griffith. So maybe I could go there and get some stories. I had no idea of writing a book. I thought I might write some stories. And so I phoned one of the very few people in Griffith that I knew, Anna Pistillo, and said to her, here's my idea. And she said, well, this weekend, there's a big weekend in Griffith. It's the town twinning event where people from Italy are coming to Griffith to inaugurate a twin city arrangement. And there'll be a choir from Italy. There'll be other people from Italy,
Mm-hmm.
and there'll be the Italians of Griffith, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to have a great weekend. So you could come and join in that. So I did. Now that was an eye opener. And when I look back, it was really quite adventurous for an Anglo from
Yeah.
Wagga to drive to Griffith and attend this 3 days of wonderful Italian celebration. And on that weekend, I met a few people, and
Mm-hmm.
I met people who played the accordion at the festival,
Mm-hmm.
and people who sang, and people who were just interested. So I started to compile a list, and then I started back in Wagga to
Mm-hmm.
phone people and say, "Look, I'm
Okay.
coming over for 3 days," and I started to compile a guest list or an interview list, and uh, I found, just as I'd found with the soldiers in the Australian Army, that people are quite keen to tell their own story,
Mm-hmm.
just like I am now.
Of
uh,
course.
our own stories are fascinating.
Yeah.
And almost everybody that I phoned in Griffith said yes.
Mm.
So your question was, how did I decide to write the book? Well, as time went on,
Mm-hmm.
over quite a few years, I gathered so much information
Mm.
that I realized I had enough here for a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that it would be a really good story.
Yeah.
So I committed to writing the book. That's how I got started. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And do you remember? So the town twinings, the Gemellaggio, was in 1998.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Did you feel part of the event? What was your feeling when you were there?
I think at that stage, I felt like an intruder. Um, and, well, in my introduction, I said I was an ethnomusicologist. Well, one thing you study in ethnomusicology is how not to be a disruptive intruder, how to be
Yeah.
a reasonable person, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I did feel as though I was a bit of an outsider. But as time went on, I got to know people and they got to know me.
Okay.
And I felt very good about it.
Mm-hmm.
People would welcome me, to their functions, weddings, birthdays,
Wow.
and other things.
That's amazing. And among all the people you have talked to and interviewed, are there any particular stories that you remember better than others?
I remember some great people. I remember Ottavina Fauna. Now, Ottavina
Mm-hmm.
was a wonderful lady, and she lived with her husband Romeo
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of a citrus orchard.
Okay.
And she was one of the most joyous people I've ever met.
Mm.
Her and Romeo had come from Italy probably after the Second World War
Mm-hmm.
and had become citrus farmers and had a family. And Ottavina would tell me wonderful stories about her childhood and about her life in Griffith. And several times she'd mention the song and then she would sing it. And of course,
I read
all of
about.
this, all of this is on my tape recorder,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, and also she was even older than me, and I remember her saying as she looked at a picture of her grandchild, "We never die. We are in our grandchildren,"
Oh, that's
and that was
beautiful.
nice. That
Yeah.
was, yes. Um, Another person was Joe Stoltar. Joe was on the council in Griffith,
Mm-hmm.
and he played the accordion.
Mm-hmm.
And every function, people would invite Joe
Yeah.
to play the accordion, and they would sing. And he was also very hospitable to me, he and
Mm-hmm.
his wife. And I'd go to their farm and talk to them. And he was a standout.
Oh.
I remember one year, I think it was Christmas Eve. I had to ring him to ask him a question, and we talked on the phone, and he said, "Right now, I'm in my tractor dredging a dam, and it's 40 odd degrees, and he's in his tractor. But of course, it would be air conditioned. But
Yeah.
that's that's a farming story, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was in the cabin of his tractor talking to me. So Joe, and I write about him in the book and have a nice picture or two about him.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a man called Joe Coloridi.
Mm-hmm.
Joe was a Calabrian,
Mm-hmm.
just as Joe Stoltar was. And Joe Coloridi played the guitar and sang and played the accordion and sang. And music was really, really important in his life.
Yeah.
He lived in a suburban home
Mm-hmm.
and had, like many Italians do, the most wonderful vegetable garden. And he told me stories about how, when he was young, working in Italy, he used the term like, I worked on the hoe. That would be a manual hoe,
Mm-hmm.
hoeing
Wow.
land to grow vegetables in Italy. And so he did the same in Griffith. Those people were not afraid of hard physical work, you know.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Joe sang a few songs for me from time to time, and they're on the tape.
Mm-hmm.
And I particularly uh, like a tape that I had that has his parrot in the background, and as Joe made a sound singing, the parrot would sing too. And so those are a couple of people
Yeah.
and anecdotes. Yes,
Yeah, I've been interviewing also some people here, and one of them is Annalisa
I'm sure.
Surian, and she
Yes,
remembers you. She remembers
yes,
you.
I remember her too. I can't remember her particular story, but I do remember her.
Yeah, because
Yes,
she eventually wrote a book about the people from Cavaso. So she collected all the photos and the memories of the
yes,
people. So I wanted her to tell me the process of writing this book and a bit about her personal story. And so when I mentioned your book and I mentioned your name, she was like, "Yeah, I remember he was sitting where you are sitting now," and we asked him many
yeah,
questions. So.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think I found people here to be extremely welcoming, I have to say. Like
yes,
in Griffith, really, I was invited at the Christmas kind of party for the museum. So there was a
yes,
beautiful environment there, and it was,
yes.
yeah, everybody was very, very welcoming.
I do have a bit of a personal theory that
Mm-hmm.
people in small country towns do welcome visitors. I mean, Griffith is a long way from anywhere else,
Yeah,
and
it
and
is.
when somebody takes the trouble to go there, in my work at the university, I often had to visit towns out across the Riverina as far as Hay, and the people were always
Mm,
welcoming, you know.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I agree. And for me, like even driving here, we drove from Byron Bay to Griffith,
Yes,
and I remember I was like, "Where is this town?" We were never like we're just driving and driving and driving,
yeah,
and it was never ending. But then when we arrived here, I was like, "Wow, it's green. It was greener than I
yes,
expected." So.
yes,
Yeah, of course. I'm not the first one calling it the garden, garden in the desert. So,
yeah. Of course, that's courtesy of the irrigation.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, of course.
Irrigation is vital to
Yeah,
Griffith. Yeah.
absolutely. And going back to the book, so the second half of the book is about music, its
Yes.
protagonist and its role, so the role of music to get the community together. So can you give us a bit of insight about the role of music for in-house parties, clubs,
Yes.
festivals, weddings?
Yeah. I can. The I found that the Italian people love to have music and particularly love to sing, and they're good at it. You know, singing in parts, and just a little anecdote that I have there.
Hmm.
I was talking to some Italian men, and they were enthusiastic because the AGM was coming up. The
Hmm.
AGM of their club might have been the Hanwood Club or one of those clubs. And I said, "How can you be enthusiastic about an AGM?" And they said, "Well, we get the business done in 10 minutes, and then we sing, eat, and drink." And so there's a lot of people there, and it's a celebration. The AGM, the business is very
Yeah,
brief, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I found that at weddings and other social functions, people would sing beautifully. They all knew the same songs,
Hmm.
and they knew the harmonies, and would. Unlike my mob, we don't, but they did. Yeah, and I think they were in that way proclaiming Italian culture,
Hmm.
and sometimes they were proclaiming the culture of their area,
Yeah.
the Veneto or Calabria.
Hmm.
Sometime, depending on the event, it became a celebration of that particular place,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, their connection with their town or their area
Yes,
must have
yes.
been very, very, very
A lot
strong.
of the Italians came from a place called Plati
Hmm.
and
Yeah, in
and
Calabria. Yeah.
in Calabria, and they assured me that there were more people from Plati in Griffith than there were in Plati, but they would celebrate that place.
Yeah.
And I understand that's very small and not
Yeah,
very
it is.
wealthy.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is. It is. And I was told from by men now from Platy that when he went back there, he was kind of disappointed because
yes,
he had imagined like another place. They idealize so much the places, and then when they eventually go there, yeah, they prefer the image and the memories to the
yes, yeah,
present.
yeah, yes, yes. I think I found that too. The trip from Griffith back to
Hmm.
Italy
Hmm.
sometime worked out well,
Yeah,
but sometime it didn't because
yeah,
when they got back, it wasn't how they remembered it.
yeah,
People weren't how they remembered them,
yeah,
and sometimes it was not all that
yeah,
great an experience.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, that's absolutely in both. I mean, north and south, or wherever they were coming from, because yeah, Italy had changed a lot, and another person I talked to, she was telling me how all her family was here, so she didn't have family back
yeah,
then anymore
yeah,
because everybody
yeah,
moved to Griffith, so she had
yes,
nobody to go to meet.
yeah,
And also, I was fascinated by the story of the Continental Music Club.
yes,
Was a really
yeah,
good social experiment in a way, and
yes,
it was
yes.
really important to shape like to bring communities together and to let
Yes.
the Italian community known to also the Australian community.
And the book tells the story of Al Grasby's
Hmm.
role in that.
Yeah.
And he was a remarkable man. No doubt you've heard about Al.
Yep.
Eventually, he made some very bad decisions
Mm.
and lost the support of people in Griffith,
Mm.
Australia. But he was a champion of migrants,
Hmm.
particularly Italian ones.
Community.
Well, the way Al told the story was that he was went to Griffith as an advisor in agriculture,
Hmm. Hmm.
or maybe a journalist in agriculture.
Hmm.
And when he got there, he had a great discovery. He discovered that 50% of the people in Griffith didn't know what he was talking about because he spoke English. So he studied
Mm.
Italian and became fluent in Italian.
Wow.
And he realized a way to reach people that weren't particularly reading people was via the radio.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so he set up a radio program and then discovered that after I think it was 25 words in a foreign language,
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
say it in English. And he thought that that didn't make for good radio. So he called it the Continental Music Club and played continental music
Hmm.
on the
Hmm.
radio. And in my book, I think there's a great picture of some of the men who participated in that
Yeah,
project.
yeah, yeah, there is.
From that grew Al's interest in radio and broadcasting. And in the Whitlam government, where he was a Minister for Immigration, now I believe he played a key role in setting up SBS
Hmm.
radio and television. And the Continental Music Club in Griffith was his training ground.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
it had a great outcome.
Yeah, for me it was fascinating. To be honest, I didn't know about the 25 word regulations. So I looked into it and I was like, okay, wow. I
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know about it. I had no idea. Because sometimes like we don't think about the language that much. We take it for granted, but of course, like being myself a language teacher, language is really important to get like for integration, to get to become part of a community. But also if you
Yes,
don't speak the language and you cannot access certain information, then you will always be isolated. So it's always a two-way, direction, like
yes.
getting support from the community that provides material and information in your language, and on a personal side, learning the language of the country where you're in to
Uh,
fully
it's
be part.
also a badge of identity, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
maybe I can't speak English very well, but I can speak Italian. And I did meet quite a few people who were manual workers
Mm-hmm.
who would mention the word Dante. They had a
Mm-hmm.
fascination with the idea of Dante
Yeah.
and knew something about him. Uh, and I mean, for language and Italian
Yeah.
culture,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that was important. Yes.
Absolutely. And like in your opinion, what has been the role of music in shaping Italian Australian identities, like in Griffith in particular?
Yes. Well, I think that succeeding generations teaching each other the songs and the
Hmm.
dances uh, spells out that you
Hmm.
belong here, you know.
Yeah.
And one story I tell there is in the book is about a young rock band in
Hmm.
Griffith, and they perform uh, an Italian folk song. And I asked one of them, "What does that song say? You know, you sang
Hmm.
it in
Hmm.
Italian. What does it say?" Their answer was, "Oh, I don't know, but the old people taught me, and I like singing it, so I still sing it." But they were losing language,
Yeah.
but carrying on with the song,
Yeah.
and they were an important fact. I think is that young people are more likely to stay in Griffith than in many other towns
Mm.
because the farming families help them get onto the land and the families stay intact, you know.
Yeah.
And because they're all there, they learn the music together. They
Hmm.
form a rock and roll band.
Hmm.
Uh, I think Griffith has had some great rock and roll bands, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that in those bands they would, as I say, do some Italian songs because they would play at festivals and family things,
Yeah.
and they'd want to entertain the old people, not
Yeah.
just the new ones, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And in the book, I like of course, like all the voices are included. And there are some people that say that they loved keeping their Italian tradition and the Italian music with them, but there were others that they were living this conflict of belonging to two worlds. So
Yeah.
they wanted to welcome more Australian music because they felt that they needed the Australian music to feel more
Mm.
Australian. So that was very
Well,
interesting also
yeah, I
to
think
read.
what I learned about being an immigrant is that you sometimes don't belong here and
Mm.
don't belong back where you came from. I mean, one thing I read a historian talking, and she said that it's almost as though being in the aeroplane is home.
Yeah,
Getting there, you're not there, and coming
yeah.
back. So I developed a great sympathy for immigrants, you know,
Mm.
leaving their country to come here
Mm.
to try to find a new life. That's not easy, you
Yeah.
know.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
No, no, absolutely.
yeah.
And I experienced it on myself. Like I've been traveling and living in different countries for the past 7 years.
Oh,
And there is always that feeling of I want to go home, but where is home? So,
yes, yeah,
and once I go home in Italy, I feel good, but I also feel that something is missing because it's only part of my life, it's only part of my
yeah.
identity, because my identity is also being like having spent maybe 3 years and a half in New Zealand or having lived in Australia. So it's it's more than just being Italian, even though of course I carry a lot of cultural traits with
Yes,
me
yes,
that are typical
yes.
of Italian people.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I
an
experienced that
interesting.
in a
Mhm.
small way,
Mhm.
having lived in Wagga for 33
Yeah.
years. And people would say, when I came back to Newcastle, where's home?
Yeah.
Well, Wagga was for a long time. I feel like I'm a Newcastle person
Mhm.
now because I spent the first bit and the most recent bit. But yeah, I still feel for Wagga Wagga. We're going to Wagga Wagga in January for a
Mhm.
family reunion
Oh,
with our
beautiful.
children and grandchildren. The grandchildren haven't seen Wagga Wagga, so we're inducting them into
Yeah.
Wagga next year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think it's important because it's part of your story. So they need
it
to
is.
know. I mean,
Yes.
33 years is quite a lot. I'm 35, so it's quite a long
Yeah,
time.
it is.
It's my entire life,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Oh, wow. So in the last part of the book, you collect and share music in the Grappa from the Monte Grappa area in Italy, in the northeast, and Nonno Tony's songs.
Yes.
Wow,
That
they're
for
incredible.
me, that's my favorite part of the book.
I agree.
As a as a researcher, it's a favorite part because, as I say in the book, Tony Collar and his there it is, Tony Collar and his brothers bought these songs with them after the war and kept them in their heads and sang them over the years, you know. And at about the time I went to Griffith, they had recorded them, made a serious sort of recording of them. And the story in the book is that researchers in northern Italy, in the Veneto, compiled a book of songs from that area, and each song is nominated to belong to a certain part, a certain place, you know? And all the places are up there in the north of Italy, except one, Griffith. Griffith was adopted as a community of, I think it was called the Grappa. The Griffith was
Grappa, yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
And so to do that chapter about the songs, Tony Collar helped me a lot.
Mhm.
But then there was a remarkable man called Antonio Comin,
Mm.
and he was a professor of Italian at one of the universities in Adelaide, and he'd come from Griffith, and he was an expert on Italian popular culture, particularly the songs. And he ran in Adelaide singing groups, singing the Italian songs, and he helped me a lot to understand those songs. And then we contacted the musicologist back in the Veneto. I think his name is Vardeniga. And so that really made a team of four, each with different roles to play in that research. My role was to tie it together and write it up, but the others were the experts in the music.
Mhm.
And by the way, that notation that you just showed on screen, just show that again, would you?
Sure.
That notation was done by Vadeniga in Italy, not by me. He
Mhm.
allowed me to use it. So that was an important thing, you know. And the songs had been forgotten back in Italy or had changed. Yes,
Mhm.
the songs had changed so much in Italy that their value is that they had been frozen in time in Griffith, you know.
Wow.
And that is that's a terrific story. Yeah.
It is very remarkable. And so, a colleague of mine, she's really interested in music and opera. So, we're definitely going to share more about these songs in Italian with our Italian students. But also, one of my students, she's a singer, and she asked me to send her one because she would like to try and sing.
Yes.
Because, of course, if you can read music, this is so detailed that you can sing
Yes.
it. And that's the
Yes, you
beautiful
can.
part of it. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing, really. I'm really glad that I found your email online. Thanks to the other podcast you shared, the other story, also the story of your family that you shared on a podcast in Newcastle, I think. So I'm really, really glad I was able to be in contact with you and to talk about this really, really beautiful book. So I'll just repeat the title. is Music and Love, Music in the Lives of Italian Australians in Griffith, New South Wales, Roland Bannister, and it was published by the Italian Australian Institute, La Trobe University, Melbourne, in 2007. So can we still find the book? Can we buy the book?
Yes, I did inquire about that this week. They still have copies left, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, they'd love to sell them. They're $25 a copy, I think, plus postage. But anyway,
Okay.
$25. And if you go to the Italian Australian Institute, La Trobe University, there's a little panel that tells you how to order. You can't order online, I think. You have to phone and arrange payment and purchase that way. But I did talk to them personally this week, and that's what they told me. Yes.
Perfect. That's
Because it's
great.
quite a long time ago now that the book was published, like
Yeah.
I think 2007.
Yeah, 2007. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's no, I know. But also I always suggest people to just maybe ask at the local library because they might have a
Yeah.
copy of the book.
Yeah.
And yeah, it again, I I've been given a good amount of books to
Yes.
read. And this one is the one, and I started other two, but when I started this one, I was like, okay, no, I have to finish it. And so I read it all because, yeah, it's really
Oh.
captivating, as I said at the beginning. I
Oh.
loved it. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thanks
Absolutely.
for saying that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your memories and stories with us. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And let me try my Italian on you.
Of course.
Buon Natale.
Oh, grazie mille.
Thank you.
Thank you.